Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Som TV podcast. I'm Jason Wise. Today's pod, we are going to have my dear friend, Steve Matthiasson, back on the podcast. As a film director, he's kind of like my Robert De Niro. He's in like every project I make. If I was Scorsese, which I'm surely not. We're going to talk about the rare thing that happens in the wine business, the bad wine story, or the story around wine that kind of goes boots up, I guess. And it's not very common because, as you guys know, stories in wine are always pretty great. We have our film coming pretty soon here about the Judgment of Paris, which we've been making for a long time. Steve is in it, and it got me thinking that event, though it sounds like a really good one, for some people was not a good experience. So it's a lot of perspective stuff. So I thought we would get together, Steve and I, and talk about some of these events that we've gone through in our wine career, life. I'm not sure, Steve. What would you call it? Like sort of just our experience.
Yeah, because when you're in wine, right, your career is your life.
Yeah, or your life is your career. I'm not sure which one is which. And when they say like, you should not work to live, you should live to work, or work to live, or whatever they're saying is, and I'm like, is there a difference between those two things? Yeah, it's pretty tough. Pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, how do we start this off? We want to talk about bad experiences. You and I both, before we started rolling, agreed bad experiences in wine are slight oxymoron. You could get a hangover. You'd have like basic stuff like that, but like legitimately like things went wrong type of thing is kind of a hard thing to do, right?
It really is. It's basically, like, yeah, you go, well, what, I guess I don't have any real problems, and like, damn it, there was, really wonderful oysters and none of these wines pair right with them.
First world problem.
we missed this being a perfect experience and had to settle with it being a good experience.
Yeah, our reservation wasn't at the right time or something.
Yeah.
This is not exactly life-threatening issues, but I still do think it yields funny stories, and the fact that there's alcohol and long dinners and all sorts of time restraints that we always kind of are functioning under. I want you to start with your first story. Rumor is it's in Provence, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
These are all a collection of stuff that Steve and I have told each other over, fires and such over years that I really think all of you people need to hear these stories. So tell me your first quote unquote bad wine experience and set it up nice and big for me.
This experience, it's a classic. It's a classic experience. There's a term for this type of bad wine experience. Aaron Jordan, I tell him this story and he says, oh yeah, because he never misses a beat in anything. And he says, oh yeah, wine purgatory. You were in wine purgatory.
Wine purgatory.
Wine purgatory. So I'm in Provence. I'm consulting with Brad Pitt. So as crazy
as all stories start off with.
As crazy as that sounds, because he needed to talk to someone, figure out what he was going to do early on with Chateau Miraval before he had Gartner launched the brand and all that good stuff, before that, any of that. And so we're sitting in a restaurant and he wants to drink DRC. And so there's DRC.
Brad Pitt. Wait, hold on. I got to take it 2 steps back. Wait, what is consulting for Brad Pitt? I mean, like, how does this even happen? You can't just like yada, 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 the beginning of that story. You're just in Provence with Brad Pitt.
Well, it was just because we did a wine dinner prior to that with his good friend that helped him with all of his wine stuff. And as the dinner went on, he was saying, his friend kept saying, so you're a consultant. What do you do? Do you ever travel? And kind of cagily, and would you be willing to travel overseas if to like help someone out, just come and take a look at their vineyard and kind of help them determine whether the vineyard's any good and is it being well managed and kind of what possibilities could there be with it, that sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then it turns out that he's talking about Brad Pitt because he just bought Chateau Miraval. This is about 10 years ago. So this is before he'd launched, the rosé and all that. So I find myself in Provence and we're looking at the vineyard and, it was about 3 days. And this is the first and really one of the last times of just drinking DRC. Normally, if you're lucky, if you get an opportunity that there's an opportunity to taste, something like that, it's an expensive bottle of wine. And so the first night we had gotten there was like, we're just carving up truffles, putting them on toast with butter and, pounding great wines. And then we, the next night we ended at this restaurant. And now I'm pretty certain that if we finish this bottle, another bottle is going to show up. And so we have our salads, and I asked the server, rather than this rosé, is it all right if I get some of that DRC?
Some of that $8,000 bottle of wines.
Yeah. And the server says, well, that's for the next course. And this is where the wine Purgatory comes in. It's on the banquet table off to the side. And I go, well, I know that, but I would like to go ahead and start with it now. I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's not the right wine for the salad. It's for the next course. Okay. I understand that it's not the right pairing with the salad, but I'd like to go ahead and have it now anyways. It's a rare opportunity for me. I'd like to drink this wine. Let me go talk to the sommelier. Sommelier comes over, bends over, rubbing his hands together. Sir, I understand that you'd like to drink the Burgundy now, but I think you'll find that the rosé is better suited for this course, and the Burgundy will be for the next course. And I said, I understand that and I appreciate that, but I'd really like to have it now. And I'm sitting there staring at my salad.
What's Brad Pitt doing? What's Brad Pitt doing here?
He's at the other end of the table, just kind of watching this whole thing and kind of cracking up. So then they, because I'm like, I'm not going to eat my salad until I have the glass of wine I'm going to have you kind of sit there a lot of times when you're kind of waiting for the wine so you can start eating, right? And so then back to first world problems. But then so he goes and gets the manager, and the manager, the sommelier, and the server have a huddle. And this time is going by as this is all happening. They're having a huddle, and then finally the manager comes over, and he looks like he just discovered a big turd in his pocket, basically. And he just walks over with his face, and it just goes, "Sir, the sommelier and the server have explained to me that they explained to you that the rosé is much better with the salad and the Burgundy is much better with the next course. But if you insist, we will serve the Burgundy with the salad." And it's just like, well, thank you.
So I don't understand. I just don't understand why there would be any kind of look, you're sitting at a table. Forget about the fact, I don't know why I have to say his first and last name every time. You're sitting with Brad Pitt. You would think that there's people at wherever restaurant you're at, anywhere in the world, just be like, all right, they'll order more DRCs. Good sale for me, right?
Right. One would think that they're in the business of buying wine and reselling it to customers at a profit. And yeah, he literally made a comment about America.
I'm sure. That's good. What was it?
I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of things are done differently here than they are in America, kind of thing. But we will accommodate. Yeah, wine Purgatory is a real thing, and that's why I always ask: Can you please just leave the bottle on the table?
Yeah, it is. Anyone who's ever been any restaurant where they have that. I mean, they have that little circular table or something off to the side, or even worse, when they have an ice bucket in the off to the corner where they put all the tables wines in.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I have been at a restaurant, sadly not with Brad Pitt, where I'm looking at my bottle, my glass is empty. We look at each other all at the table. It's like, who's getting up, walking over there, getting our bottle, bringing it to the table and pouring it ourselves because I'm thirsty.
Yeah, right.
This is ridiculous.
Like, guys, we're here to drink. Let's leave the bottle on the table. I don't need an ice bucket. Just put it on the table.
So in the Brad Pitt standpoint, you were kind of like the house appraiser. You came in and kind of took him to vineyards and said,
it was just someone to talk to a little bit and basically what's going on here? How's the vineyard being managed? And there was a lot of room for improvement in how the vineyard was being managed, how the wine that was presently there was being made. And so it's you think
the French are pissed off you want to pour Burgundy during salad? Wait until the Americans come in and tell them how to make wine.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, I'm pretty sure having the bung in the barrel so fruit flies can't get in is a baseline, right?
That's fair.
And so but he partnered in with the Perrin family, which are about as professional as you can get. And so, we never came back after that. Everything was under control, but it was a hell of an experience, I got to say. We couldn't eat dessert that one night because the paparazzi showed up.
Oh, really? Yeah. Imagine being him. He's got to
he was like, we'll see if we get to dessert, basically.
Yeah. Because word will get out that he's there.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, I would assume he would say that Miraval's a pretty bad wine story for him too. I know he's suing his ex-wife right now over the sale of that winery to some Russian conglomerate or something. Yeah, it's a whole Miraval's embroiled in a whole
Oh God.
I think Brad's doing okay.
He's probably doing okay.
We don't talk very much recently, but all right. I can't. Yeah. I don't know that I can top Brian or Brad Pitt, but mine is going to involve somebody that at least in listening to the podcast has heard of and knows who he is. His name is Brian McClintock. So we're filming Psalm 2, and I'm going to tell the story here of how Brian gave my entire crew the plague in Burgundy, France. And I'm not talking like, oh, he gave him a cold. I'm telling you, he got my crew so sick that lasted weeks. I mean, like, this guy gave them bubonic plague. Okay, so here's how it goes. We are going there to film, and we're filming at Domaine Romaniconti. And if you've seen Psalm 2, you know there's that scene, right, where we go and meet with Alberto Villan, and he tastes some wine, and it's a fun scene. Okay, so Brian, who was, admittedly, he was in France at this time, traveling around, meeting with producers. This is before he started his current venture right now. And he happened to be in Beaune at the same time we were going to be in Burgundy in Beaune filming. And so I was like, look, he was in the movie. Let's do some interviews. Let's film with you. And let's go have dinner afterwards. So we go to a place. First of all, he's pissed off I didn't invite him to go to DRC, which is not an easy ticket to get. So I get that. And then we go to this place called Ma Cuisine. And Ma Cuisine is like this place. I'm sure you've been there, right? Have you ever heard of it in Beaune? Mm-hmm, it's like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like this. Yeah, it's great. It's like this husband and wife, and the guy's really snide and funny, and they basically do everything. They got a great wine list. It's kind of one of those weird places that I think, like, if you've seen John Wick and like the hotel all the assassins go to and they all know each other, Ma Cuisine is that for like wine people in Burgundy. Like you just go there and you're like, oh, there's that guy who was a wine rep, and oh, there's that person that was sleeping with that person. I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like And so we go to Ma Cuisine, and Jackson Myers, who's my cinematographer, producer, one of my best friends, he's an obsessive hand washer. Guy's washes his hands, always has hand sanitizer, but he always wants to try everyone's food. He always wants to share his food, and it's always driven me nuts because I'm like, I don't understand. So Brian meets us at dinner, go to Ma Cuisine, and Brian mentions like, yeah, I've just felt a little off. I haven't felt very good, and I'm like, kind of whatever. And so we're looking at the menu. They have 2 or 3 specials, and one of them is a fish quenelle made with like pike. It's a pike fish quenelle. It looks like a little pastry with fish in it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Brian decides, I'm going to order the quenelle and everyone can try it, right? And I was no. There's no chance I'm not trying this. So I'm there with Jackson and another guy from my crew.
You're not a fish quenelle person? Or are you worried because Brian said it doesn't feel good?
If you meet someone and they're like, I'm a fish quenelle person, who is that person? I need to know. Yeah, sure. I love fish. It's fine.
Give me like all those weird, like French, like Lyon. No, they have all those like weird puffs that they do with fish and like
and inside is like
all the stuff in there.
Inside's like a baby pig wearing a crown holding a newspaper. Yeah, it sounds like really intricate.
Like how many hours did you spend on this crazy fish?
No, for sure. But so I tend to have this real weird thing where I don't like to share spoons with people. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have kids and they're disgusting, but I just don't. It's just not my thing. So everyone at the table decided.
It's a very different sharing a spoon versus sharing a fork.
For sure.
No comparison. Yeah. You share spoons with people you're married to.
That's right. That is an absolute truth. I'm not married to Brian McClintock and never will.
Exactly. So no spoon sharing.
So everyone at the table, they're like, they had tripe on the menu, they had fish quenelle. Everything's pretty like, it's specials. You don't really have like, here's a standing menu and you get the burger they always have. And so I got the tripe. I happen to like that, and it was like a tripe soup or something like that. And then someone else gets the short ribs and someone else wants the fish quenelle. And they're like, all right, we'll all share it. I'm like, the hell we will share. So I take mine and I'm sitting at the table and people are thinking I'm like this total jerk and we're pouring great wine. There's like Clap Cornas and like all this great Chablis. And, Brian's like, everyone's like, putting their ego on the table with like wine they're ordering or whatever else. And people are coming from other tables and pouring us their wine that we know just randomly. And they keep sharing this fish quenelle, Brian's thing. They're like passing it around like they're all, they might as well just been French kissing each other as far as I'm concerned. And Brian, like every once in a while, just like let it slip. Like, I'm just not feeling great, but I'm so glad to be with you guys. And I was like, so that night, Brian like contacts us like after dinner, like really late. And he's like, I'm really sick, throwing up or something like that. And I'm like, oh God. And so I turned to my guys and I'm like, you guys shared food with him. And they're like, oh God. Next morning, sure enough, they are throwing up. There's like no ability to keep anything down. They are so sick. Well, here's where this gets to be the wine story. We have to go film in Germany the next day, like early morning, get in a car, drive to the falls, and film with a guy named Rebholz. Do you know Rebholz? He's a winemaker. Jorgen Rebholz. He's well, anyways, really, really, really tremendous. Hans-Jörg Rebholz.
Yeah, he has the right name for it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, this guy is like, Germans look at him and they're like, "This is too German. I can't."
Yeah,
yeah. But he's a sweetheart and a really great guy. Makes amazing Riesling and has no sense of humor. Okay, none. And so we pack up in the van and everybody's like kind of like queasy, and I have to drive. Right. It starts pouring rain. It's about 48 degrees, 44 degrees, and wet. So it feels way colder.
Yeah.
And we get to Rebholz and he has lined up, I shit you not, 12 types of Riesling, all different ages, and 5 kinds of like experimental Chardonnay he's trying to grow there. And then some other stuff. It's like 20 glasses of wine to taste. Meanwhile, my 2 guys are trying desperately not to like just puke all over the floor. And so, I mean, there's a chance, coronavirus, we started it. This is like us. We did it here in Bone. That's where it started. But like, so we went and we get to this filming thing. And that's where in the beginning of Psalm 2, Carol Meredith talks about how vines, if you leave them alone, they'll just grow up a tree. And that footage, the reason we went to go film there is he has a bunch of old wild vines that have just been growing up trees. And so I filmed it, but we had to, in 1 foot mud with my crew shivering, I had to operate this camera and walk about a mile into the woods with this guy, drunk, by the way, because we had drank 10 Rieslings, and then film this vine. And so this guy thought, first of all, I have these 2 people with me who are like huddled and shivering, and it's me. So he must have thought that I picked up 2, I don't know, infirm people. I snuck them out of a hospital or something. And so the rest of the entire shoot we had in Europe, they were shivering and dying in a car and powering through the best they could. But Brian McClintock started the Black Plague of Europe while we were on Psalm 2. And it was like I've never seen people sicker. And they were sick for 2 weeks when they got home. So, off of a fish canal.
So I'm just going to talk a little devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Because we're blaming this on Brian.
Right.
But you dragged puking Jackson out into the mud in 48 degrees. And don't forget when you dragged Jackson into the Poison Oak outside of Stony Hill.
This is true. No, first of all, I want to make something clear.
Where else have you dragged Jackson is what I want to know.
Oh, shit. I mean, Jackson, I have put him on sea urchin boats. We have almost been in a helicopter crash in Patagonia together. I can't even tell you the stuff that we've done. But, here's the thing. It's not like Jackson's like an indentured servant or something like that. I mean, he can make decisions. And 9 times out of 10, Jackson's very food motivated. So I just want to tell you, he'll get sick for a canal, or he'll go and get, I could have told that story. I could have told the story of Jackson getting poison oak when we filmed at Mayacamas and all that stuff. Oh my God, the poor guy. But yeah, I always seem to be the guy who weasels out of not having the injuries or the sickness or whatever. It's probably coming to me, I think. But so when you watch Psalm 2, know that the back half of that film...
And I do not want to be there when it happens. Karma retribution all comes down at once.
This is a guy who's had an earthquake strike his house. And yet you're afraid of me. That's good. That's good. So know that when you watch Psalm 2, the back half of it is basically done, under Yersinia pestis, like bubonic plague. So anyways, all right, what else you got?
Well, I think you can't talk about bad wine experiences without talking about pairings, right? Mm-hmm. Because if those of us who take wine and food seriously, we take pairings a very serious matter. Like, the wine going with the food is a very serious matter. And a lot of times when you're drinking wine as a guest, for example, you don't have control over that. So you have to live with whatever it is. Like, you're at someone's house and it's a whole platter of oysters. The only thing they have is Napa Cab. Then you have a situation on your hands and there's nothing you can do about it. You're out. It's just like wine purgatory. You're out of, nothing you can do. And so I don't know if this counts and is the worst, but when it comes to wine pairings, Rob Simsky and I we kind of decided to team up and do like this little multi-city wine sales tour because he has Abraxas and we have the white wine. They're both blends. And so they always go in the other whites section of the wine list.
Right, yeah.
You have your Chard, you have your Sauvignon Blanc, you have your other whites. And so Rob called it the other white guys tour. So one of our stops was you never know what you're going to do on these things. And, the distributor lines a bunch of stuff up. And they lined up this really great benefit. It was actually really fun, cool benefit in New Jersey called Brew versus Crew. So it was Rob and I were the crew, and then Garrett Oliver, who's an amazing beer guy, Brooklyn, brewery, and I think he wrote the Oxford Companion to Beer, was the brew. And little did we know that Garrett's also extremely competitive and was planning on winning Brew versus Crew, and had the menu in advance and has a ton of beers to work with, and did all this beer pairing with every single course. And, we had whatever was in stock at the time. And so basically Rob and I, especially me, I'm pretty competitive as well. So when I was like, okay, we got to do this. And so we get up there and on the first, and this is Garrett starts the thing by going, so there's an entire room full of people that had just gotten off work in Manhattan and they're back in New Jersey at this charity event for dinner. And there's probably, I don't know, easily 80 tables out there with 6 people per table. And Garrett's up there starting it by saying, I like wine. Wine's fine. It's kind of like ballet, but beer is the tango. And does the freaking tango in front of the room. And I'm sitting there going, an hour ago, I didn't even know I was doing this event. So, okay. And then the first course comes out and I'm like, okay, well, I got this one. It's oysters and it's our white wine and a beer. And I'm like, our white wine is absolutely perfect with oysters. There's a little habanero kind of mango thing with the oysters too, which is perfect with our white wine, just with that fruitiness. Cause and everyone voted for the beer as the winner because they wanted a beer. They just got off work. And I get that, but it was like, damn, okay, we don't have that many courses coming here. So then when we get to the pork chop with pork belly and poached pears with our Ribolla Gialla was the perfect. No, sorry. No. I said that wrong. This is in my memory. It would have been so good if I would have had our Ribolla Gialla, but we didn't. Unfortunately, it was paired with our Napa Cab. So it's our Napa Cab with a pork chop, pork belly, and stewed poached pears, which is terrible. That's terrible. and Garrett had put this delicious farmhouse ale with it, and we won by a landslide because everyone wanted a cab, and we needed this in order to win the competition. And I had got it there in the podium, and I had to tell everyone, I'm sorry, I can't accept the victory on this course. I know that you all voted for the cab, but the beer's the better pairing. And I don't know if we lost a bunch of customers in that one by basically telling the entire room that they have no taste, but it was we have to have some standards. At some point in time, one has to draw a line in the sand.
You voted against your own wine forget about marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about forget about what you're actually there to promote a product. You're like, nope, this is not the right one.
This wine tastes terrible with this course. What's wrong with you people?
Your distributor's like, hey, idiot. You're like, it's called integrity. They're like, great, have fun with that bagging groceries.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
I don't know how this got into a worst wine experience concept, but the idea is we get into these situations on wine pairings, and it's tough. Sometimes when you're at the house and they have a delicious seafood meal planned, and they have 3 wines they're excited about. All 3 of them are Cabernet, and you're a guest in their home. And what do you do? You tell them that it's a dry month.
No, you just drink it. I mean, you and I both know, and tons of people listening know that this is you just swallow. I mean, it's not like we're talking about bad stuff either. It just might not.
No, we're talking
perfectly.
About great wines and great food, but that's how much of a freaking snob I am. That those situations concern me.
All right, I'm gonna pull an audible on my last story, and this last story it has to do with wine, and it's really important because it is at the very beginning of my wine journey. And it was the most terrifying. I still have nightmares. I still wake up in a cold sweat thinking about what happened to me on this occasion. I traveled to Greece. This is before Sam. I was just a baby. So before Sam, I traveled with my girlfriend, who is now my wife and mother of my children, producer of all this stuff we work on. I traveled with her to her great uncle's house in Greece. And he is an expat who left a long time ago and built this house in the southern Peloponnese that has to be seen to be believed. And Anyways, I'm with her father, I'm with her mother. It's the first time I've ever done a trip like this with their family. It's feeling real. I'm thinking, oh God, I might marry this girl at some point. So we're jet lagged is, when you do these flights and you do 3 of them and then you finally land in Athens, then you have to go another 3-hour drive to what is a place called Koroni, sort of in the southern Peloponnese. So I get to the southern Peloponnese and they start pouring Retsina like crazy. So her great uncle starts pouring Retsina and it comes out of a tin metal thing. Like, it's like just house wine getting poured out of a pitcher that's made out of like tin or some form of metal. And so I'm meeting him and talking to him, and he's a very stately gentleman type guy, but hands are all dirty because he spends his whole time gardening and building these walls. And so he's pouring this wine and he's asking me all these questions, and he keeps filling up this cup, which is a small tin cup that would look like something you'd see on a nightstand to drink water out of, maybe. I want to say I probably had 6 or 7 glasses of Retsina, jet lagged out of my skull. And so after he stops talking to me, I make this decision. I'm going to go walk through the gardens. I take this cup with me. I am certifiably drunk, but I'm also so jet lagged that I don't feel that the way you would normally feel, right? So I'm walking through the gardens, which are extensive and they're very big. And he's got, some workers that are trimming trees and stuff like that. And I come around this corner and there's an olive grove. And there's a tree up against one of the taller olive trees, or a ladder up against this olive tree. And at the base of it looks like a 110-year-old man flat on his back at the bottom of the ladder with his arms flayed out and his legs open. And I'm like, oh no, holy shit, I found a dead guy. Literally, I don't know this guy. I don't know this place. I'm just trying to stroll. I had to get out of the family conversation. I'm like, I was like, I'm jet lagged and drunk and I got to get out of here. So I just went for a walk and I find a dead guy. So I walk up to the guy and I'm looking around. I got this little tin glass of wine in my hand. And I got this stupid camera because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to take pictures of. So I look at him and I'm like, hey, and he doesn't move. And I look up and clearly he's at the bottom of the ladder, right? So I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to go back to the house and be like, hey, I found a dead guy in the garden. And then take everybody back when it was already awkward enough. So I get a stick and I poked him. To me, logically, I thought this was like, I just wanted to make sure before I walked back in.
Because you didn't want to just touch him, because what if he is cold or something? But
yeah, right. Well, yeah.
If he's taking a nap, getting poked with a stick.
I'm not saying logic is involved in this. Yeah. So I poke him with the stick. His eyes bolt out of his head. He jumps up. This guy's not a day under 90. And he looks at me and he still yells something in Greek, like, no. And then he runs off into the trees. And I'm standing there with a stick and a glass of wine. And at 1 minute I was like, all right, I'm going to go tell my new family that there's a dead guy I found. And now I'm like, how the fuck do I explain this? Because I poked a guy who clearly I thought was dead, and he clearly wasn't, yelled at me, and then he ran into the woods. So I'm drunk, and I'm like, what do I do? Do I go tell my wife's husband or my wife's father and her great uncle who, I just met, that I thought I found a dead guy, poked him with a stick, turns out it wasn't dead, but I don't know where he went. And then for them to be like, there is no guy out there. And then I'm in the movie The Shining or something. So anyways, I go back there and I was like afraid to tell anyone. I was like afraid. So like 30 minutes passes by. They're still pouring Retsina in there. I walk back in, they pour more Retsina. I look at Christina and I say, hey, I got to talk to you. And so we went outside and I'm like, look at it. I found a dead guy. She's like, what? Like, I found a dead guy. I poked him with a stick. He wasn't dead. And so then she asked, she's like, hey, do you have like an old worker? And so her great uncle's like, yeah, there's this guy named Saltieri. He works here. And she's like, yeah, would he be like taking a nap? Like, he goes, oh yeah, the workers, they just sleep wherever, So the crazy thing is I spent the entire time, I never saw this guy because he like worked out the thing. And I'm waiting for him to come and tell the great uncle that I poked him with a stick and woke him up. And so the whole rest of the trip, I probably drank 4 gallons of Retsina, but I just was you talk about purgatory. I was in purgatory waiting for this guy to confront me in Greek who was 90 years old, for real. I mean, no joke. So that was like one of my
like, what the hell's wrong with you? Poking the guy taking it. That's what he's thinking.
And now in retrospect, I think like, who would do that? What was wrong with me? Why did I poke this poor guy with a stick? But I'll never forget Retsina. That's a wine that I now like. I can taste it right now, and I can
it's
see
so
the
delicious. I bet it was really good out of that metal.
It was great. Oh, it was fantastic stuff. I mean, it's great. So those are.
Well, I'm just realizing that I'm just completely full of shit when I was talking about pairings, and then my first story was I wanted the Pinot with the salad with fruit in it. Which I didn't mention there was fruit in the salad. Like it was like there's a lot of reasons they only wanted to give me the rosé and not the DRC, but I wanted the DRC with my salad, even though it was a terrible pairing, and so there you go. So completely full of shit.
Yeah, but also look how full of shit I am. I'm like, oh, it was terrible. I was in Burgundy and I had to go to this nice place. And then I was in Greece with the person I was going to marry and I found a dead guy. And it's, it's tough in wine to really have truly bad stories. And I hope that everyone listening doesn't have any real bad stories. So is that your cat?
Yeah. That is, yeah, she's really... Yeah, she's announcing that she wants a wine pairing right now.
I've noticed. So I want to tell everybody, you can see Steve on Som TV in, tons of stuff. We did a whole Verticals episode on you, your wife, Jill, the amazing wines you guys make. You're in Som 2, you're in Som 3, you're in Som 4, Cup of Salvation coming in September. You're in the Judgment of Paris film coming up. You're in tons and tons of educational content. So I hope we never stop doing this together because I can't tell you how much I love it.
No, I love it. It's so fun.
Do you want to plug your wine? Where can people get Matthiasson wines, which I recommend strongly you get?
On our website, Matthiasson.com, or your local small independent wine shop or your favorite restaurant.
Love it. 2 T's, 2 S's.
Yeah, two T's, 2 S's.
Great. MathiassonWine.com. Well, everybody definitely go there and know that on Som TV, we have coming up quite a bit. We have the Judgment of Paris film coming around the bend. But next month, we have a film I've worked for, I don't want to admit how long we filmed it. Filmed in 6 or 7 countries, called The Whole Animal, which is, I think, a food film unlike anything anyone's ever seen. And I don't know how else to describe it at the moment. It is a culture, history, and incredible cuisine having to do with meat dishes. And it is something really special. I cannot wait for that to premiere.
And I can't wait to see the Judgment of Paris. I've heard, I worked for Warren Winiarski for about 12 years and heard so many stories about the early Napa and everything that led up to what was going on at that time. And, Warren just called me up, just the other day to complain about a vineyard he was driving by and looking at that he doesn't think they were taking as good a care of it as they used to. He's in his mid-90s and he's still looking at everyone's vineyards and looking at his own vineyards. And, he's worried about his soil pH. And it's amazing to see the true passion for viticulture has still all these years,
Yeah, Warren is a big part of the film. He's in it. And everyone else that participated or was peripherally involved is in the movie. You're in the movie, but as somebody who's reaped the sort of, the Halley's Comet tail of this Judgment of Paris. I mean, I guess we could take 2 seconds if you're willing to talk about the JOP, because I really think it's, first of all, the true story's never been told. And that is one thing that our producers and myself set out to do, was to actually do a primary source documentary where you're talking to the people who lived it. I mean, Warren Winiarski over at Stag's Leap, I think when it comes to the Judgment of Paris, and I have done hundreds of hours of interviews and much more research than that, it's both overblown and underblown at the same time, because I think truly everyone looks at the event and they say that event changed Napa, and that's not necessarily true. What changed it were all of the things that led up to the incredible talent within the people that were in that tasting. I really do think it's like looking at the movie Easy Rider or Godfather and saying that changed Hollywood forever, or Jaws. But what you're overlooking is the decade and the group of people that all made those films happen. And I think wine is very similar. Mondavi and Winiarski, and I mean, better than I do, just what the climate was leading into that. Truly, truly stunning stuff.
Well, they needed a lane to operate in, and that, it's just that tasting gave them a legitimacy that was exactly at the right time, where you're right, the talent was there, the wine, wines were there, and they could capitalize on it. We've had a couple other moments like that over the years. Like you featuring in Som 2, featuring some of the wineries that are part of New California was part of giving a legitimacy to a style of wine that just a few years before that was had no lane to operate in. It was, and a lot of stuff led up. With Raj, all the stuff Raj Bar was working on with In Pursuit of Balance, and with John Bonnet's book and everything, And then, so that was all leading up. And then, but you just included different types within different California lanes where we weren't so balkanized into like, this is California wine. That was really a really big moment, I think.
Hey, I'll take it. I mean, truthfully, though, again, even with a film like that, it's like the audience was ready to receive it. And on top of it, I can speak independently. I mean, you're my friend and we've worked together for years and all this and blah, blah, blah. But I think you and your wife, Jill, are two of the most talented people in the field I've ever met. So it's not like, oh, I, plucked you guys out of obscurity. It's like, I almost pulled you guys out of MIT and said, hey, they're smart. It's like, no shit. So it's like, it's good. And that's the Judgment of Paris, I think is, vastly a bigger event, obviously, than anything I've ever made. But it's definitely one of these things that, your post, I don't want to get too deep in this, it's a separate topic, but your post-Vietnam War, America needed a win, all of these things where, I think wine in America needed to become culture. We just refused to have it as a part of our culture. And so if Americans are competitive and have to win and that's our culture, well, then we inserted wine into that place. And, the Paul Drapers and the Warren Winiarskis and all of the people who were involved in various lengths. I mean, going down to like John Williams and Kathy Corson were all touched this era in some way. And so to me, it's fascinating. We're so lucky to tell the story, but that's a tangent.
One time I asked Warren, what are some of the keys to making it in the wine business? And he says, well, you have to have a really great vineyard and you have to, do an excellent job farming that vineyard. And you have to be really focused on the details in the winemaking process, and winning the Paris tasting doesn't hurt. And so,
it's definitely like, it's like, it doesn't hurt. We work really hard. And it doesn't hurt. We won Best Picture,
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. But also too, I think just as like my last thoughts on this is, it is one of these things where you think you know the story. And even though you know what happened, you don't know how it happened. And that's the cool thing about this film is that we get to talk about it. I don't think how many people listening to this, you go on Instagram and everybody just throws the word Judgment of Paris around like it's something they lived through or they knew or whatever. How many people have actually looked at the size of that article? How many people have read the actual article that was written about it?
Oh, yeah.
It's next to a motor oil ad that is 3/4 of the page. It is not what people expect. This was not, this went viral in an age where virility was not something that could happen. There was no internet. So we could talk forever about this, but you should be excited about this film besides the fact you're in it. It's good.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All right. Well, it is great to talk to you. Everybody go to Som TV. Steve, tell them why they should go to Som TV. Give me a plug.
Okay, go to Som TV because it's the best, really the only place to get all that wine content. It's so fascinating, the quality of the cinematography. You get to watch this amazingly beautiful images shot all over the world and really get into these great, interesting stories of who all these people are. That's why you should go to Som TV. If you like wine, it's really the ultimate.
It's great. Nadine, our producer, can you write all that down and make sure that we put it in some form of copy? It's good. Steve, I love you, dude. I can't wait to do this again. You are a gentleman, and I'm sure very busy, so thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody, be safe, and thanks for listening. Talk soon.